Welcome to No Options with Ty Gipson, the show where life's toughest trials become the foundation for your greatest triumphs. Real stories, raw conversations, and the unwavering belief that you were built to overcome. Now, here's your host, Ty Gipson.
Hey guys, I am excited today to have a friend and someone that will really encourage you guys. I mean, and as Michael and I have been talking, and there's probably 4 or 5 different sessions we could have with Michael Christman. But today we're gonna dive in a little bit with Michael. And Michael, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. I thank the world of you.
I want to tell you something, Michael. I want to tell the group a little bit about you real quick, but Michael and I met through a dear friend and just an amazing person, Bill Kalpis, and I just like to always say he's one of my favorite, and I thank Bill for connecting us. But guys, Michael Christman is with me today, and executive coach. He's a leadership development, cultural strategist, helping leaders build trust, clarity, and high performance cultures. And golly, I mean, I look back and I think, man, where were you, Michael, when I needed you years ago when I was trying to get in this? And then I really think, no, I need you right now, right? I mean, we all need leadership is something that we can always dive into and need help doing, no matter what stage we're at. But I tell you, Michael's approach is really unique. And talking to Michael over the months we've known each other here, listening to talking about the simple, just right approach. I love that. And he's going to dive into this a little bit in a bit, but the just right approach, guys, buckle up. I will tell you guys, Michael's got some good stuff for us. And Michael, if you don't mind, I want to start right out of the gate. You told me a while back talking when you worked for Bill Kalpis and you guys were part of the mothership of school photography, Life Touch School Photography, back way in the day. You can get into this. You called this working with the dream team. And I love that. I love hearing, talking about how each other work together and the leadership skills. Will you take us there? I want to hear a little bit about that. And I want to share with this audience some of the great things you learned and that you've learned and now teach others through those times.
Deal. And I'll go fast with the first part because when I started, I really wanted to be a photographer, and my wife got pregnant and we had a little boy and I needed to feed him, and jobs for photojournalists were not just falling off they just weren't available.
Sure.
So to be a school photographer, back then school pictures weren't very good. They cost $2.50 and your choice was buy it or don't buy it. And if you don't buy it, you don't love your kids. So there was your market. And I thought, well, if I got to sink to being a school photographer to feed my family, I'm going to be a good one, and I'm going to change the quality of these things. And I'm going to spend some time making the experience better. And the old man laughed at me. I was like 22. And they said, no, you got to go fast. You got to take a lot of these in you got to take like 800 pictures in a day, and you got to move. You don't have time to make sure they're all good. Just get them done. So I listened, and then I moved forward with my own ideas. And fast forward, I started to get customers because I was making things different. And I focused on the experience and the quality instead of just the money. And that was kind of in me as a kid anyway. I wasn't like a rebel, but I cared more about people than I did about money. And so we built a business out of that. And pretty soon, before long, 10, 15 years, we had almost all the business in that part of Southern California out of that little garage, and that mentality of it's showtime and we're going to make it an experience. This is before accessories and all the posters and all the other stuff. But we made our own. We had them hanging on the wall and said, whatever it takes, we don't know, quit. We had all that stuff. And so I didn't know anything and didn't have anybody teach me. So as the business grew, I didn't know much about hiring the right people. I didn't know much about leadership. I didn't know much about budgeting. I just knew how to level up this game and go get customers. I knew how to do that. And so fast forward, that works I don't know, 15 so years later, this is around 1989. Now we're the biggest company in the world. Lifetouch was kind of little. It wasn't even called Lifetouch when I started. It was called National School Studios, doing about 10 million. That was it. Now, fast forward 1989, we're probably doing close to $1 billion in sales now. We're starting to do yearbooks. We bought a yearbook company. We got all this stuff. We own the JCPenney studios, but I'm still doing my little thing out there, and we win the #1 award in the whole country. And what was interesting is I've been going to these summer sales meetings forever and ever, watching big dogs win these big prizes, and saw myself still as that little guy out of the garage, and didn't really envision myself worthy of that kind of success. And so my mental picture wasn't allowing all that could be, right? And so Karen and I sat down and we wrote a plan in 1988 about where we wanted to be in 4 or 5 years. And we've never done that before. And in 2 years, we achieved all of that. So the power in having a vision and writing it down and believing in it, like the believing in it was the hardest part. We wrote it down, but we were writing stuff down that we saw other people do. Like we didn't see us doing all that yet, and taking that big walk up on the stage and getting the big award. And boom, 1989-90, we won. And now I had another dilemma. What do you do now when you've already achieved all your stuff that you had on your dream board and you got nothing to aim at? Like, humans need that next thing. And so, yeah, I can remember walking through the lobby of the hotel and hearing my feet echo and feeling so alone and so lost after winning the biggest award we had. So that leads me into, I went and opened Canada from the Kitchener Holiday Inn, and that was fun. I turned around a couple of regions and realized I liked leading people and teaching people how to lead people. And I was pretty good at it. I was actually better at that than I was the other stuff. And the company gave me room to do it with my own style, which was part of the beauty of that company. And I got a call from Pat Hickey. And at the time, we were using the school picture sales force to sell yearbooks. And they didn't want to sell them. They didn't know how to sell them. They didn't know enough about the product. It was a relationship that looked good on paper, but it wasn't really working. And so Pat Hickey was charged with being the COO of that whole thing. And he was kind of a quiet, very insightful leader. And he knew people and he knew talent. And he put 7 of the smartest people on that team that I've ever seen. And then for whatever reason, he called me and added me to that team. And I was supposed to run the sales part of it. And brilliant marketer, Karen Adamson, Ron Renholt, brilliant R&D, Bill Kalpas, amazing production manager. He was the vice president in charge of all production. And we were getting ready to make a shift from like good old hardcore printing to digital. And it was going to revolutionize the whole industry. And so he was going to navigate the whole million moving parts of all of that. That was Bill's job. And then Pat was overseeing all of us. And he was that kind of leader that we knew what we needed to accomplish, but he didn't tell you how to do it. He'd put us in a room and tell us to play nice. And we might fill the entire room with sticky notes and then start connecting the ones that belonged together until we only had a few rows. And those became our strategic imperatives. It seems old school and simple, but I'm going to tell you something. This little division was 32 million and kind of not growing. And 4 years later, it was doing 100 million. And we were the belle of the ball, and everybody wanted to dance with us. We had another division's sales force selling our product more enthusiastically than their own. And it made them mad. And so that's when I say the dream team. There were no egos in that room. There wasn't a lot of fear. There wasn't any fear to bring up a bad idea. Nobody trying to act like they knew more than they did. We had a finance person, Kevin Bornholtz and Paul Grillo, that I could go in there and say, hey, what if we did this? What do you think it would cost And then if this was the consumer response, what do you think would happen? And I mean, 3 days later, they put it in dummy form so I could understand it. And nobody made fun of me for not having a finance degree. And so that's why it worked, is we appreciated each other for who we are and what we're good at. I was good at getting the sales force to do stuff and having ideas. I couldn't have done anything without what they did to bring it all together.
Yeah, and Michael, you bring up a couple of really good points. I want to just reiterate. And you mentioned, I'm going to go back for a minute. You talked about visualizing. I think that's a key, something I don't want everybody to miss, because I think, setting goals is one thing, writing them down is another, but visualizing your goals and one of those, that was a big part of your growth point there. And I want to make sure people understand that, because I talk about that a lot. It's one thing, we can write down goals. I mean, we can do it, but visualizing takes it to a whole nother level. And you just brought that up again. And I think that's a great point to remember. Second thing you talked about is teamwork, working together with the same vision. And again, I think that makes, a lot of times, those are words that we use a lot, but man, there's a lot of importance in teamwork. You can go to athletic teams, you can go to corporate America teams that are working together in any form of leadership. If they work together and respect each other, you see so much more success. Would you agree with that statement?
Oh yeah. And I promise you, I'm old. I've seen it build something amazing, and I've seen the lack of it tear that down. So there is no too big to fail. You get leadership wrong and it's going to fail, whatever it is. And that's a different story for a different day. But what happened here was Pat would say things to me very quietly, and you needed to really listen and take it to heart. Think about it on the way home. He would say, Michael, you got a lot of ideas and you're going really fast, and your people are buckling at the knees a little bit. Here's what I'd like you to do. When you look at that ugly picture that HR made us put on the wall over there, pretend it's a sign that says fast with work and slow with people. Just when you look at that ugly picture, that's what I want you to see. It's a little sign that says fast with work, slow with people. And then he invited me to go to a hockey game and have dinner there. And he invited my team, and he was going to join us, and we were all going to have dinner together, but he didn't show up. It was me and my team at this hockey game having dinner at this restaurant. He wanted me to spend time. He wanted me to slow down in my pursuit of what we were trying to accomplish. And he wanted me to solidify a relationship with my team, because I was relatively new with them. And he taught me little lessons like that all along the way. They were breadcrumbs. He never forced anything on me. He never berated me for doing it wrong. He would just suggest ways that I could level up in a way that really fit with how I process information. And he did that with all of us. And we were all so vastly different. I mean, we had people in the room who were just about process and data. And then we had people like me who use way too many words for those people. And I'm way too excited for those calm people. And so he had a way of making that all blend and make a really good recipe. And I don't, still to this day, I don't know that I've ever worked on a team with a team like that. I mean, after we had our success and we ran this thing to the sky, corporate made some changes, and I got promoted to be head of sales of the big division. Now I've got the big ship to run. But by then, the leadership in that particular division, in my opinion, became a little political and a little more about career moves and career paths. And pretty soon it was more about who's right than what's right. So if I had to say something to a leader, or even anybody looking to be a leader or join a team, if it feels like who's right matters more than what's right, that's going to be a tough road. It's going to be hard to sustain performance in a self-serving atmosphere like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
good. That's a great point.
As I advise people when I join teams, we're building sustainable performance cultures and leadership methodology that leads to profit and performance through people and processes and systems. And we need to honor those things to get these things. And as my greatest teacher ever said, don't ever get that out of order. When we made the business about people, the ones we employ and the ones they serve every day, we always had plenty of money. It wasn't until the new guy who replaced him made it about money, everything about money, and where we could trim and where we could do this and where we could do that. And the people started to feel different. And how people feel is directly relevant to how they perform, and how they're led is directly relevant to how they feel. And there it is. And so,
well, I mean, you just said it, but I mean, I think all companies and all management teams grow and die by the leader. I mean, either you got a good leadership team, and you can walk in a company and probably feel what the leadership team is about. I feel like I can walk in a company sometimes and I can feel it as soon as you walk in.
When you're tuned into that, you can. Now, sometimes when a leader is showing up in the same space every day, they might not see the shift, right? It's like when the grandparents come over and say, wow, look at Johnny, he's grown so much. But the parents are with him every day. They didn't see it, right?
Right.
And so the change happens slowly. You don't see it so we have an advantage. We have all this experience in our lives, and then we walk into a scenario and you can feel something or see something. And as you explore it, I mean, one of my gifts is people kind of spill their guts to me. I guess I establish trust easily or early, and I don't take that lightly. So I get a pretty good feel for what's going on in an organization right away. When I used to race cars, we had to create a communication between the people working on the car and me driving the car. And I didn't know all the technology that made it go fast. I just knew what it felt like and what it was doing and not doing, and whether that was really good or whether it wasn't. And that's part of where Just Right came from. Is on rare days, that car was so just right, you didn't want them to touch anything. And then pretty soon, the whole game was about finding just right. And so that's why I use that terminology so much.
Well, and talk a little bit, if you don't mind, because I love that story about just right, because I think there's a lot of, the more you've talked about that, I love those words, because I think there's a lot that I personally can even go into and say, man, that was just right there. But what is that? What does just right mean now? What you've kind of coined that word and use it into this leadership development. Explain to us a little bit about what just right means.
Well, okay, so keeping in mind that I'm very simple-minded, and I need things to be simple so that we can stay focused and move forward. And I think when people try to sound smart, they complicate things until it's almost undoable. And just right, it's a mindset, it's an attitude, it's an affirmation, it's a vision, it's a target, it's a reset, it's a happy place. It's just the word. I say words, but I made it one word, and when I write it, it's got a capital J and a capital R, but it's one word, and it's just right. And people ask me how I'm doing. That'll be my answer. Even if that's not 100% the truth in that moment, it's always the target. And when you know what your just right is, it's pretty easy to mentally go to a place that says, I'm closer to just right when I don't do this and when I do these things. When I, for some people, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever our habits are, right? Behaviors, habits, and attitudes. Whatever my self-talk is. When I say these things to myself, I tend not to have that just right feeling. When I say these things to myself, right? So as people, we don't outperform our beliefs, right? Roger Bannister, the 4-minute mile, until he did it, nobody thought it was possible. And then all of a sudden, in the same year, all these other people do it. Believing
Michael,
that,
stop right, if you don't mind, stop right there for a minute. We don't outperform our beliefs. I think that's something we got to make sure we understand, right? We're only going to do, we're only going to, and that's such a, our limits are our beliefs. And I think that's something I want to dive into just for a second, because I think that's very true. How we control that, right? How we think is how we're going to perform, and how far we will extend our opportunities or our achievements is based off of where we believe we'll go, right? And you've dove into that a lot. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's that's something that I really like.
yeah,
What you say.
I got sucked into the deep end on that stuff. And I mean, there's been a couple of times in my life where I was so far off the trail and looking like I was winning and everything, but on the inside, I was dying. Okay. And Kimmy and I have been married now 32 years. And this was right when we were first married. Her cousin was married to a guy. Her cousin was married to the daughter of a guy who founded the Pacific Institute. His name was Lou Tice. He's since passed away. He wrote one of the first books on self-talk. And somehow I ended up in his office at this party we were invited to, and he mentored me for a decade. Just chose me and mentored me. I don't know what he saw, but this changed my life. It was like a rebirth. He was the guy who Pete Carroll would call up before every game for a pep talk. He even after he left USC and went to the Seahawks, his curriculum was what Alabama used before they started winning national championships. It's about everybody on the same page, everybody speaking the same language, and everybody elevating their beliefs, and everybody helping each other. One person falls down, 9 hands reach down to pick them up, and nobody says, "What's in it for me?" It's that. So he got me, I turned into like a different person. And he taught me how to look for 4 or 5 things that are just right. He didn't use those words, but those are my words. He taught me how to look for 4 or 5 positive things every time I was immersing myself in negative thoughts, right? He taught me about no victims thinking. Like you don't want to be a victim of circumstances, and you don't want to be a victim of somebody else's behavior. So how we speak to ourselves and how committed we are to what we believe in determines whether or not we get there. So when you're like me, when I lost my son, or my neighbor when she lost her husband, I promise you that loss like that can be a very dark and empty place. And for somebody like me who doesn't know how to grieve and isn't really, I didn't find that very manageable. I dove into busyness and helping out my grandsons and all of that. I dove into managing his estate. I dove into all this stuff. I never really sorted out, like I lost sight of my vision. I quit saying my gratitude prayer first thing in the morning. And 6 months later, I realized how powerful that is, because I wasn't doing it anymore and I became somebody else. Like, okay, go ahead.
No, I wanted to bring up a point right there. You know, we've been talking about a lot of the successes that you've had and what you're doing. I mean, you're obviously doing a lot of great things and helping leaders. But what I want to bring up, and I want to make sure people hear there, is we are all dealing with some adversity. And you just brought up something that nobody probably even knew, the loss of your son, right? You lost a son. I mean, that's not something that's supposed to, as a parents, the thought of that is just something that no one has ever wants to go through. And I can't even imagine what, you went through with that, but you brought that up. And I think I want you, if you don't mind, I want you to talk a little bit more, dive into a little bit of that, because I think we've got to realize on the other side of these things, because you've done some amazing things after that horrible tragedy, right? You've been able to, you help people every day. I mean, you're on boards at Scottish Rite Hospital. You're helping people, leadership. You're helping people through things. You talked about your neighbor being there at the right time and helping people. I think what I want to make people realize that we're all dealing with things, right? And we're all going to get through them. but it's how we approach them, right? And it's how we mindset. You talk about that word mindset. It's such a broad statement, and it's a very loosely used word, but that statement is something that I think is important. Our mind is extremely powerful, and you've shown example of that, fighting through and getting to the other side. If you don't mind, talk a little bit about how you pushed through those days.
Yeah. So I was on a roll coaching. I was literally going 100 miles an hour. My son his mom had passed away, and I was with my son and daughter for a week sorting out her stuff, and spent a really good week with the two of them. And on his way back to Seattle, he started to feel bad on the plane. By 6 o'clock, he was in an emergency room, and by midnight, he was on life support. So that's how fast something can happen to a perfectly healthy person. We didn't even, so I get the call. I fly back to Seattle, and there he is. And, 2 days later, I've got to say goodbye to him. That took the wind out of my sails. I closed down my consulting practice. I didn't have it in me to help other people solve their problems. I couldn't see what my future looked like. I knew I needed to be there for my wife and my youngest daughter that still lives with us. And I was running on fumes, man. And I tried a lot of stuff. I read all the books on grief. I did all that. I mean, basically that just taught me I suck at grieving. And I needed to find my way. And through prayer, and then through rediscovering my gratitude prayer and making a decision that this emptiness is not where I want to live. Okay. So just like the rest of the world, we all know more about what we don't want than we do about what just right looks like. Most people don't spend enough time there. So in a world where everybody's talking about what's broken, what's wrong, and what's ridiculous, and yet that gets our attention, there's not enough emphasis on what we're aiming at. So literally the crux of my work with people is to figure out, what does that just right vision look like for you and for your company? Do we agree? Okay. Now, 3 questions. Is it possible? Of course it is. Others have done it. Okay. Is it possible for you? Oh, well, let me think about that. I got to grow into that. Okay. Yeah, it is. All right, good. So when all of that wonderfulness happens that we're going to go chase, are you worthy of it when you get there? Do you feel worthy of it? Because if you don't, you're going to sabotage it along the way without even knowing you're doing it, because your subconscious never sleeps. So what your subconscious believes, that's what you're capable of. So we might have some work to do there. Okay, now we get that all nailed down. Now we go do an assessment of the current reality. Here's what's broken. Here's what we got to stop. Here's some stuff that's wasting resources. Here's some opportunities. Here's some things we could add. And here's some stuff we're amazing at. We need to double down on that. Okay, this process works whether you're trying to lose 20 pounds, whether you're trying to recover from an addiction, or whether you're trying to build $1 billion company. It's a simple process that gets from here to there. It requires clarity. It requires belief. And it requires some help, because nobody succeeds alone. So
That's a good point.
I only work with people who are all in and ready to transition into, like when I work with leaders, I don't just work with their company and their strategy. I work with the human being that's going to connect with other people to make this all come to life, just like the Dream Team did. Like, that's the best model I know, and I got to live it. And a lot of people don't. I work with people who have never had such a joyful experience in a joyful culture, and I help them try to build for them.
And you bring up, though, not doing it alone. I think that's a good point, because you do, you're helping a lot of people, like I said, through leadership right now with your consulting and your business now. But what? And you went back to the Dream Team and you talked about that. How that was, because it was proven after that Dream Team broke up, each individual one of you guys didn't have the strength that you had as a group.
No, we were living proof of, what's that old saying, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts?
That's right.
That's what the Dream Team was.
Yeah. Well, and I just want again to bring up the point though. We can't do it alone, and I think those are some key words that we want to make sure our audience hears is it's okay, and I talk about that from the no option side. We I've talked about it before as a young kid. My dad taught me not to dust off, boy, you'll be all right. Nobody wants to hear your problems. But what I realized later on after telling the story is that you never know what the person to your right or left is going through, right? So sharing your stories, sharing with other people absolutely is what we need to be doing because we could be helping each other instead of keep trying to stay within ourselves and work through things together. Because sometimes us telling story is therapy in itself, just helping us talk, right? Each other going through these things together. But it opens up, and I'll tell you, it's been amazing listening to you because it does. It's fighting alone is not something that any of us should try. And I did it myself. I still do, but I think we've got to realize whether it's in business, whether it's in personal, growth, whether it's whatever we're going through, we can't do it alone. And I want to talk. That's going to lead into a little bit. Tell us, Michael, what all we've kind of touched on it a couple times, but tell us what you're doing now in your business to help other people.
Well, I've got a couple of young people that have started businesses, and I sit on their advisory boards. It's not daily interaction. It's just working with the leader, making high level stuff down to the mechanics of leadership. So here's what the vision is. Here's what it looks like. I won't just help someone do a business vision without doing a personal vision for their family as well, and kind of leaning into it, living into it. I don't want them to have to be a different person at work than they are as in day-to-day life. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think you can fake authenticity. So be that, somebody said, hey, Michael, you didn't do so well at marriage your first tryout, but boy, you sure got it right this time. Well, sometimes asking somebody who understands why something failed, you gain a lot of knowledge on how to get it right. And, there is no marriage expert. There is no parenting expert. That's moving on the fly and creating on the fly. Those are wild rides. Here's what I would say. The secret to a happy marriage is picking the right person. And the secret of that, the precursor for that, is to become the right person so that you can find the right person. So I think the work is always inside of us. We start in the mirror. And every day, I'm supposed to give myself permission to make a bigger impact on the world, and I never had that kind of faith in myself. I had other people telling me, oh, you should do a TED Talk. You should write a book. You should do this. You should do that. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's not me. That's for those other people. They do that stuff. I just do what I do. And so I look back and I've met a lot of those people now. And I didn't give myself permission to make the kind of impact that I could make. And even though I'm old, I've got gas in the tank, and I'm giving myself that permission now. So every day, I'm going to try to create a little ripple, and it's going to travel far and touch many. And some of those people might be inspired to do the same. And look at that. We just made the world a better place by getting up and
just that one person a day. That's those small steps. Over time, you can make a big difference.
Said, help somebody. You don't have to look very far to find somebody who could use a little help or a little nudge or somebody to talk to.
So true. Well, I'll tell you. I mean, Michael, and we kind of talked about this in the beginning. There's a lot of area. You and I could probably go on for 2.5 hours of different topics with your knowledge and experiences. And we are going to come back and because I want to talk more in depth of some of the different topics, because again, just in leadership, just in the several areas that you and I could, and I think you could really help other people. But in closing though, I want to ask you a couple of things. If there was something you could tell a young leader, what would it be? Someone just getting started.
Mastery happens an inch at a time. The trick is to have the courage and the insight to keep inching. Everybody wants everything right now, and mastery is a process. You want to become, not just a title, not just a person who tells other people what to do. A leader can make a want-to environment instead of a have-to environment. It can make people excited about coming to work. It can make people excited about sharing their ideas. That's what a good leader does. Good leader listens more than they speak. They understand what talent they have and how to help people level up.
I love that.
That's what a good leader does.
I love that. In fact, say that quote again. I like that. I want people to be able to, if you didn't write it down, because I think that's a good quote. Say that quote again, Mike.
Which one? The mastery one?
Mastery, yep.
Mastery happens an inch at a time. It's just that most people don't have the courage and the stamina to keep inching.
Yeah. So,
and I think, it does keep inching, because the other thing that goes with that, all setbacks are temporary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, if you don't know that, then you'll quit inching. Like, this just happened. Yeah. Dang it. This just happened. All setbacks are temporary. Now we will do this.
Yeah, all setbacks are temporary, and all, good and bad, right? We got to remember that. We got to remember being on top. Being on top and then going through adversity. All that stuff is temporary. So you got to make sure you manage that with that in mind, because those things are not always going to be there. So I got a question for you, Michael. If somebody wants to reach out to you and visit with you about some of the things you offer, maybe a young business, maybe just somebody personally that just wants to have some personal growth, or a company that wants to grab some of their leadership team, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can see how to spell my name on the window, Christman. And if you were to email me at michael@mchristman.com, I will answer you.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, guys, if anybody is interested in reaching out to Michael that or has questions or whatever, email him. He just offered the email. Please reach out to Michael. And then also, if you want to come through my website and ask me questions, I'll be glad to pass questions along to Michael. Whatever that looks like for you, we'll be glad to do it. But Michael, I want to say thank you. I really do appreciate you jumping on today. I know you're a busy guy. I think you were telling me earlier you're just out with the horses this morning, but I do appreciate you finding time to jump on, because as always, if we can help somebody, even if it's just one, it's worth our time.
And we can. I mean, what the world needs now more than anything is leaders, the good kind. So I'm on a mission.
Well, I appreciate that, and I encourage you to stay on that mission, because it's people like you that are helping change a lot. So, Michael, thank you so much, and again, we're going to have you back on if you're willing to talk a little bit more in depth on some other topics. So, again, thank you for being here today.
Appreciate you and respect you very much.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to No Options. If this episode spoke to you, please take a moment and leave a review. And more importantly, please share it with someone who may need to hear it. You can find more stories, resources, and ways to connect over at my website, tygipson.com. And that is Gipson with a P, TYGIPSON.com. Remember, no matter where you are, your story isn't over yet if you live like you have no options. I'll see you next time.
Ty Gipson is an entrepreneur, a relentless survivor. Did you know he's also a powerhouse speaker? After overcoming 3 transplants and juvenile diabetes, he built thriving businesses with one mantra: no options. Ty transforms adversity into action. His keynotes ignite audiences with real-world resilience and 30-plus years of sales mastery. Are you ready to inspire your team? Book Ty Gipson today as your next speaker. You can call 512-944-4780 or head over to tygipson.com. That's Gipson with a P. It's time for your event to share the motivation that is no options.